Hi guys, I hope you're doing well. Since we can't have our English class live, I thought I'd record a lesson for you on some idioms, some American figures of speech, and hopefully we'll be able to have a video conference call at some point. But let me start with some figures of speech. So I just typed them out. The first one is telling tales out of school. Telling tales out of school. And a tale, of course, is a story, a make-believe story, like a fairy tale. In our class in English, we've been talking about Aesop's fables, which, of course, are make-believe tales, make-believe stories, because animals don't talk as a rule. So a tale is a false story or make-believe story. And it's okay to tell tales in school. If you're in English class, you can talk about Aesop's fables or some make-believe story. But it's not so good when you're talking to your boss, right? And your boss asks you, why didn't you get that project done this week? And you say, oh, sorry, boss, I was sick. But actually, you went to the Red Sox home opener. You went to the Red Sox game. And so you're telling tales outside of school where you shouldn't tell tales. You're lying, basically. And it can also mean spreading rumors or false reports. So it's okay to tell tales or false stories in school, but you shouldn't tell false stories outside of school. Well, the second one is a tempest in a teapot. A tempest in a teapot. And a tempest is a storm, a bad storm. Shakespeare had a play called The Tempest, but a bad storm. I think it was a shipwreck, if I'm recalling correctly. But anyway, a tempest in a teapot, a teapot's that little pot that you put the tea in so you can pour it. And, a storm in there is not much of a storm, right? It's much ado about nothing, to use Shakespeare again. It's making a big deal out of a small thing. And so, something that might look like a big argument or a big disagreement or a big issue is a tempest in a teapot. It's not really a big deal. It's not very important. So it's getting upset about something which is not very important. The next one, number 3 here, is thank your lucky stars. Thank your lucky stars. Usually this is used when something bad could have happened to you, but it didn't. And so you were delivered from some trouble through no reason of your own, but thank your lucky stars. You just had some good luck that kept you out of trouble. Thank your lucky stars. And of course, it comes from astrology, the idea that, you do star readings. Our fortunes are tied to the movements of the stars and the moon, the heavenly bodies, which is bad theology, to quote Shakespeare again, that the trouble is not in the stars, but in ourselves, right? That sometimes we have troubles, not because of the movement of the stars, which has nothing to do with our lives for the most part, but it's because of our own poor decisions. The trouble is not in the stars, in our astrology reading. The problem is in ourselves. We should make better decisions, better choices in life. So thank your lucky stars means it's a way of saying you should be thankful for your good luck, your good fortune, that you missed out on some trouble. Be grateful for that. But actually, you should thank God if something good happens, because He's the one who controls things, not the stars. Well, the next one, excuse me, number 4, is that's the straw that broke the camel's back, or sometimes that's the last straw. So that's the straw that broke the camel's back, or alternatively, another version, that's the last straw. And camels, of course, are those animals out in the desert in Arabia, Saudi Arabia, elsewhere, that have one hump or two, and those are camels. And camels are called the ships of the desert because people load up all their products and their different cargo on camels. So like a ship carrying cargo across the waters, the camel carries your cargo across the desert. And so ships Camels are called the ships of the desert. However, you can only load so much on a camel, right? You can only load, at some point it becomes too heavy for the camel, and the camel just collapses and falls down on its knees. And sometimes you put so much on the camel that just one more straw, one more thin blade of grass on top is going to make the camel fall. And so that expression, the straw that broke the camel's back means, or the last straw, same thing. It means that's the final thing that pushes things too far or into confrontation or crisis. Basically, that's all I can take. And so let's say that you have a neighbor who's really obnoxious and not a good neighbor, and they're always making noise late at night. And finally, they keep doing this, you keep asking them to stop. And one night it's 3 a.m. I've had this happen to me actually, and somebody's blaring the stereo, blaring their music as loud as can be at 3 a.m. And you shake your head and say, that's the last straw. That's the straw that broke the camel's back. That's all I can take, and I can't take no more. Kind of like what Popeye would say. So that's the last straw means I can't take this anymore. I've got to do something about this. And so you call the police on them and report them. So usually you say, that's the last straw. I can't take this anymore. They've pushed me too far. Well, the next one, number 5, is that's the ticket. That's the ticket. And basically means that's the solution that I've been looking for, because a ticket will take you where you want to go. Let's say you want to go to Hawaii, which I do. So you want to go to Hawaii, and you're looking through the tickets. Oh, here's the ticket to Hawaii. That's the ticket. That's the one that'll get us where we want to go. That'll solve our problem, or that's what we need right now. And that's exactly the right thing we need to succeed or do what we need to do. So you say, that's the ticket. So let's say you're trying to put in a screw and you need a screwdriver, but it's a Phillips head and you're using a flathead screwdriver, and that's not it. And then they bring you a Phillips head, a Phillips head screw are the ones like this rather than the flathead that's flat. So they bring you a Phillips head, but no, it's too big. And then they bring you another one that's smaller. That works. That's the ticket. Yeah, that's what we need. So that's all it means, is that expression. Well, the next one, number 6, is the coast is clear. The coast is clear. The coast refers to the sea coast, and so it's where the beach is, basically, or the coastline. The coast is clear means it's safe to proceed. There's no enemies there, and you can go into port or leave the port. There's no danger. It's safe to proceed. And let's say you're having a surprise birthday party for your husband and wife, and you're going to pick up the cake, and everybody's gathered at your house to yell surprise, and you go with your friend to get the cake. They're carrying the cake, you're driving, and you get back to your house, but it's close to the time when your spouse is supposed to be there for the surprise. So you don't want to get out of the car too soon, or they might see you at the cake. So you kind of look around, you peer around, are they there? And your friend says, it's okay, the coast is clear. In other words, there are no pirate ships around to get us. We're okay. So that's all it means, the coast is clear. You might be pulling out of your parking space or you're turning into a road, and your friend's in the other seat, and they say the coast is clear and you can turn, it's safe, is what it means. The next one, we've talked about this one in class before. The number 7, the early bird gets the worm. The early bird gets the worm. And all that means is that if you take advantage of an opportunity early, you'll probably be successful. If you tackle a problem early, you'll probably be successful. Just like the bird that arrives early, well, that when the worms are all out, because they come out in the morning, that's the early bird's most likely to get the worm. And of course, the joke is the early worm is more likely to get eaten, so you might as well sleep in. So the early bird gets the worm. This next one, number 8, the fat is in the fire. The fat is in the fire. And what that means is serious trouble has broken out. And I'm not exactly sure of the origins. I think the fat was part of the meat. It was good. You didn't want it to fall in the fire. So if the fat fell off the meat in the fire, you had trouble, or maybe it got really smoky, because fat can be smoky sometimes. But it means trouble has started. The fat is in the fire. So let's say you made a big mistake at work, and your boss, the boss's assistant comes to you and says, "Hey, the boss wants to see you." And he's really upset. And you go, "Oh, gee, the fat is in the fire," which means you're in the fire. You're in big trouble. The next one, number 9, the honeymoon is over. The honeymoon is over. And I think we've talked about this one in class as well, that the honeymoon is when you get married. Usually you take a week or 2 of vacation. It's a very pleasant time. And I meant to look up honeymoon, but honey is sweet, so it's sweet, and moon is romantic, so maybe that's what it means. I don't know, that's my guess. But the honeymoon is that time after your wedding that you take with your spouse to get away for a while, just to be alone and enjoy your new marriage. And but then you come back to reality, right? You come back from Hawaii or Greece, or wherever you went, a nice beach vacation, and you have to get back to real life, right? You have to go to work, or deal with daily issues. And so the honeymoon is over. The early easy part is over, and now the hard work and challenges begin. And of course, that's true in marriage, right? After a while, you're first and you're kind of in heaven with a great new relationship, but then you have to live together, and there can be difficult at times. You have to work through things. You still have a lot of happiness and joy and love, of course, but the honeymoon, the easy part's over. And sometimes when you get a new job and you're at work, and for the first couple of months they're doing training and they're not really giving you any big challenges. But then a month in, your supervisor puts this big project on your desk, very challenging, and the honeymoon is over, right? The easy time is over. That's what it means. Well, the next one, number 10, the pot calling the kettle black. Number 10, the pot calling the kettle black. The pot, of course, is just something a stone or a, well, it used to be stone, but now it's metal thing you cook in. I have one over here. I'm not going to get it though. But the pot and the kettle was the thing that you would boil water on and pour out of. It's like a teapot on the stove. It's made of metal that you can heat up to pour hot water out of. And back in the old days, when they cooked with coal or with wood, you get a lot of smoke and soot, that black stuff that comes out like coal. And both the pot and the kettle would be very black. And so for one to say, "Hey, look at you, you're all dirty," it's kind of hypocritical, because look at yourself, you're dirty too, right? And so, if let's say you're walking with a friend and you both get sprayed by a skunk, and your friend says, "Oh, you smell terrible," and you say, "Well, you're the pot calling the kettle black. Who are you talking? You smell terrible too, right?" So it's somebody being hypocritical and saying, criticizing somebody with something, but they're doing the same thing or have the same problem. So that's the pot calling the kettle black. The next one, 11, we've talked about this one before. There are plenty of fish in the sea. There are plenty of fish in the sea. And what this means is usually when after someone's broken up from a dating relationship and they're sad and they like this person, but the other person dumped them or broke up the relationship, you might say to them, "There are plenty of fish in the sea." In other words, there are a lot of good people out there. You'll meet somebody else. And of course, it comes from the idea when you go fishing and you're pulling in a fish, but the fish escapes the hook and jumps back in the water, and you're sad, and your friend says, "Don't worry about it. There are plenty of fish in the sea." In other words, you'll catch another fish. And so it's usually used for dating relationships where, again, a relationship doesn't work out, and your friend trying to comfort you says, "Well, there are a lot of good men or women out there. You'll find somebody else. So there are plenty of fish in the sea." Yeah. So. All right. The next one, this is an old-fashioned saying as well. Number 12, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to skin a cat. And this is talking about back in kind of the 1800s, that they'd catch a wild cat like a tiger or a mountain lion, and they would want the skin for clothing and or for some kind of tent or something. So they'd cut the skin off of the cat, the wild cat. And there's more than one way to skin a cat. Means let's say you're skinning that cat, and your friend says you should do it this way, and you say there's more than one way to skin a cat. In other words, there's more than one method that works, and there's more than one way to get something done. And let's say you're driving in traffic with your spouse, and there's a roadblock, you can't go this way, and your spouse says, oh no, we're going to be late. And you say, well, another way, so you're not worried. You say, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to go to get it done. So you go another route and you're successful, and you skin the cat another way. So that's where it comes from, kind of an old-fashioned one. Here's another one, number 13. The shoe is on the other foot. The shoe is on the other foot. And what that means is that now the trouble that you had is now in the other person's life and not yours. So one person is now experiencing what the other person was experiencing previously. And so let's say that you have two children, and one buys a candy bar, and the other child says, can I have some piece of the candy bar? And your child number one says, no, it's mine, you can't, I'm not giving you any, won't share. So that kid eats his candy bar and doesn't share. Then the next day, the other kid, let's say your daughter, she buys a candy bar this time when you're at the store, and this time your son has no candy bar. So, oh, can I have some? And she says, well, the shoe is on the other foot, isn't it? In other words, now the trouble that I had yesterday, you have today, and so she doesn't share with them. And so, not that I'm advising that kind of thing. You should always share chocolate, especially that's me. Well, one more. A thorn in my side. A thorn in my side. A thorn, of course, is on a plant like a rose will have thorns. That's the sharp part, is the thorn that sticks your fingers. Ouch! That's the thorn, that sharp part. A thorn in the side. This actually comes from the Bible. The Apostle Paul, one of Jesus' followers, talked about he had a thorn in his side. It was something that was painful for him, and that's what it means. It's something that's painful. Sometimes it refers to people, oh, gee, that one guy at work, he's a thorn in my side. He bothers me. He annoys me. Or maybe there's a problem. It's any problem in your life. So, maybe, any problem that, maybe again, a neighbor who's in trouble. That guy's a thorn in my side. He really bothers me. So it can be an irritating person or thing. Another expression, a pain in the neck. That guy's a pain in the neck. Or this, having to do my taxes is a pain in the neck. It's a thorn in my side, which is true. So, well, that's all I've got for today. And as I say, when I send this along, I'll try to send along I have the worksheet with the definitions as well. So I'll try to send that in an attachment, email attachment when I send this. But I hope you guys are doing well and hanging in there. And as I say, maybe on Zoom or some other site, we'll try to get a conference call going at some point. But take care. Stay well. Bye.